أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم آتنا من لدنك رحمة وأجل لنا من لدنك توفيقا وسدادا وصوابا. In the last class we discussed addition to Salah, az-ziyadatu fi Salah, and summarily az-ziyada fi Salah will be from either of two things. It is either min jinsi Salah or min ghairi jinsi Salah. It is either what you are adding to the prayer is parts of the prayer, that is what is done in the prayer, or min ghairi jinsi Salah, or what you are adding to the prayer is not part of the things we do in Salah. For example, al-mashi fi Salah, walking while praying, al-hik, that is scrubbing your body, then al-akl wa shurb, eating and drinking, then al-kalamu fi Salah, talking during the prayer. All these things are not part of those things we do in Salah, then they take their own ahkam. Now, if all these things are done intentionally, they will render the prayer invalid. If they are done ignorantly or they are done forgetfully, then they do not affect our Salah, and there is no sujūd sah'w for them. The person that made this error, that did this in his Salah, will not do sujūd sah'w, and it will just be what Aisha said on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that ikhtilasun yahtalisu shaitan min salati ahadikum, that it is the fraud shaitan committing the Salah of each one of you. Then harakat fi Salah, turning around, turning your head in Salah, or turning a part of your body, or even moving your body completely in Salah. It has three rulings. There are some of it that spoil Salah. Those harakat you do in Salah, that is the movement you do in Salah, they are not part of what you do in Salah, such as ruk'nu, sujūd, and qiyamu fi Salah. Like turning your head, moving a part of your body, looking at someone else in Salah. They are of three categories. If you do that too much, bila haja, there is no demand for it. You are just doing that anyhow in Salah. If you do that too much, it spoils Salah. If you do that just lightly, not that much in Salah, it does not spoil the Salah, but it is makruha. That is, it is discouraged in Salah, but the reward of the Salah will be affected. Then the last one is the one that is jais. There are sometimes that it is permitted you look elsewhere in Salah. It is permitted that you move in Salah. That is if there is a need for it in Salah. And this has many evidences in the Sharia. There are many times that the Prophet ﷺ will move in Salah. It is reported that during the time of the sickness of the Prophet ﷺ, he was leading the Salah while sitting, while those behind him, they were standing. So he turned and give them signs that they should sit. So, doing that is not part of Salah, but he did that to correct those people standing behind him, that they should sit when the Imam is sitting. Then there are hadith that said the Prophet ﷺ stood to open the door for Aisha while he was praying. Then there are others that said the Prophet ﷺ, he carried Umama, the daughter of Zainab, that is his granddaughter. He carried her while he was praying. Then when he go for ruk'nu, so he will put the girl down. Then when he's standing up again, he carries her. So all these are not part of things we do in Salah, but if there is a need to do them in Salah, we are permitted to do that. And if there is no need to do them, but you do them lightly, they will be reducing your reward in Salah. But if you do them too much in Salah, they will actually spoil, invalidate your prayer, such as praying now, then someone is passing by, you look at that one, then, and other things we do in Salah that they are not part of Salah. Now, what about if what you have added to the prayer is part of things we do in Salah, like adding an extra sajda to Salah, or adding an extra ruk'u to Salah, or extra things we do in Salah, adding extra to Salah, they have to be corrected. If it is done intentionally, as we have said in the previous lesson, the salah will be invalid. If it is done forgetfully, then it has to be corrected by making two sajda after the taslīm. Then we mentioned many cases regarding addition to salah. That is addition of what is part to salah, doing extra of what is required in salah. So we have said all this earlier. Omission and nuqsan fi salah, omitting some part of the prayer. You know, we said at the beginning of this class that as-salah ibadatun dhatu aqwalin wa af'alin makhsusa. As-salah is a combination of sayings and actions that are prescribed by the Sharia. Now, omitting some parts of the salah will actually affect the salah. Now, if someone omits any part of salah, apart from the sunah salah, if the person did that amdan, that is, he did that intentionally, the prayer is invalid. He will have to do the prayer again. But if it is done forgetfully, that is when sujūd sah'w will come in. Then the question we ask ourselves now is, what part of salah is omitted? Is it one of the arkan of salah? Is it one of the wajibat of salah? Is it one of the sunah of salah? Now, if what is omitted is an arkan of salah, then the rulings is different. The rulings are different. If what the person omitted is Takbīratul Ihrām, you know, we said there are 14 arkan of salah. Out of these 14, if what is omitted is Takbīratul Ihrām, then the salat is invalid because the person has not even started the salah. If we remember the hadith of Ali that he reported marfu'an that Miftāhu salah at-tahur, the key to prayer is purification. Then tahrimuha at-takbir, that what brings you into the fold of salah is the Takbīratul Ihrām, the first one we do before we start our salah. Now, if someone omits this takbir, the salat is invalid from the beginning because the person has not even started praying. Now, this is common to people that have not, that did not start the prayer with the imam. You are coming into the mosque now and the imam is on ruk'nu. Then what people do is they start running so that they can grab that rak'ah of salah. Then during the course, most people will just make a takbir and go to ruk'nu. Of course, the person have not even started the prayer. What you should do in that place, in that time, is make your Takbīratul Ihrām, then you have joined the salah, then make another takbir to go to the ruk'u. But if you just go to the ruk'u straight, then you have not even started, you did not join the salah, you just make some exercise. What you should do is make a takbir of joining the salah first, then make another takbir, go to the ruk'u. Now, the Sharia has made things too easy for us. Just that if you don't want to do what the Sharia has prescribed, if you are in a rush, the Imam is ruk'u already, and you are afraid of losing that rak'ah, in the Sharia it is established that place you are, just make your Takbīratul Ihrām there, do your ruk'u, then you tadubbu raki'an, you walk while in that ruk'u. It is always funny when you do that. You make your takbir, Allahu Akbar, then Allahu Akbar to your ruk'u, then right there in the ruk'u you start walking until you join the sufuf. That is what the Sharia has prescribed. Not that you run into the mosque, join the saf, then make just a single takbir. You have not even prayed. So what we are saying is, if what you omitted is Takbīratul Ihrām, then you have not prayed. The whole of the salat will be repeated. You have not prayed at all. Now, if what you omitted is other than Takbīratul Ihrām, that is from the 14 arkan of salah, you have omitted. What you omitted is not the Takbīratul Ihrām. It's one of the remaining 13. Then that is where there are two things. For example, someone omitted Surah Al-Fatiha, or you omitted a ruk'u, or one of the two sajda in salah, in a rak'ah. If what you omitted is one of these things I have mentioned, and you have not reached the place of that ruk'nu in the next rak'ah, what you do is you go back, make that ruk'nu, then you continue your salah from there. Example now, someone is observing Salatul Zuhr, then in the first rak'ah, after reciting Surah Al-Fatiha, then the other surah after Surah Al-Fatiha, he made takbir and he went to sajda straight, omitting the ruk'u. And he did not remember until he stood for the next rak'ah. While reciting Surah Al-Fatiha, that was when he remembered he did not do ruku in the first rak'ah. So he should just go down, make that ruku, and continue the salah from there. That is, he is still in his first rak'ah. Another example, let's assume is in the sajda. It occurred in sajda. He made just one sajda instead of two. So what he should do now is, after the first sajda, he did not do the second one. He stood to the next rak'ah. Then while he was coming from the ruku of the second rak'ah, of the following rak'ah, he remembered that he made one sajda in the previous rak'ah. So he should just go down, make that sajda, then continue his salah from there. At the end of the salah, he make taslīm, then he make 2 sujūd after the taslīm because the overall activities are increased. What about if he did not remember until he reached the place of the ruk'nu in the following rak'ah? Someone is praying now, he omitted the ruk'u in the first rak'ah, of which is a ruk'nu. Now, he did not remember until he was doing the ruk'u of the following rak'ah. What the person will do now is to forget about the rak'ah in which the error has occurred. Now, he takes this rak'ah in which he remember, he will replace that with the one the error has occurred, and continue his salah. Now, if he is to pray for rak'ah, he'll be observing what will now look like 5 rak'ahs. Example now, he is praying. In the third rak'ah, he omitted the ruk'u. Then he did not remember until he reached the ruk'u of the fourth rak'ah. He should just continue his salah. The rak'ah in which the error has occurred is now invalid. Only that rak'ah is invalid. Then when he is done with his salah, he will, he's now having 3 good rak'ah. He has observed 4. 1 is invalid, 3 is valid. Then he will now observe the 4th one now. The overall will still be 5. Then he will now make 2 sajda after the taslīm. Now, the summary again. What you omit in salah is a ruk'nu other than Takbīratul Ihrām. What we say is that if you have not reached the place of that ruk'nu in the following rak'ah, go back. Observe that ruk'nu, then continue your salah from there. What you did, everything you have done after you omitted that ruk'nu becomes invalid. You continue your salah from that place. So example, I said someone omitted a sajda, then he did not remember until he reached the ruk'u of the following rak'ah. He should go back, make that sajda and continue his salah. Then make 2 sajda after the taslīm. Now, if you have reached the place in the following rak'ah, what you do is you don't go back. But that rak'ah in which the error occurred becomes invalid. Then you replace it with another rak'ah, then 2 sajda after the taslīm in both cases. What is the evidence for this? The evidence for this is the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu. He said the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam led them in Salatul Zuhr that day, and he observed 5 rak'ahs. Then when it was done, qīla lahu azīda fi salah, Ya Rasulallah, as the salat been increased, he said, and what is that? So he was told he prayed 5. So the Prophet faced Qibla and make just 2 sajda without going back to the salah. He made 2 sajda, what we refer to as ba'di. So this is the case of someone that have omitted a ruk'nu in salah. What about if what has been omitted is a wājib? At the beginning of this lesson, we said there are 8 things we do in salah that they are wājib. Yaskut sah'wan. If we forget them, the obligation will fall, but they will be replaced with sujūd sah'w. Okay, we mentioned these 8, and we said one of them is the first tashahhud, then the sitting for the first tashahhud, the takbīrat we make apart from the first one all other takbir, that is the takbir we make while changing position in salah, saying Subhana Rabbiyal Azim in ruku, saying Subhana Rabbiyal A'la in sajda, and we mentioned 8 of them. Now, if one omits one of these 8 wajibat of salah, there are 2 ways to correct that. If you have not left the place of that wajib, then perform it. Okay, maybe I should just present it as an example. A person is praying now. When he got to Salatul Zuhr, yani, after making the second rak'ah, instead of him to sit for tashahhud, he did not. He stood to the third rak'ah, omitting the first tashahhud and its sitting. You know what he omitted is a wajib in salah. How does this person correct it now? It's very easy. If the person have not left the place before he remember, he was just standing to the third rak'ah, then he remember he should sit back, make that tashahhud, then he is not to perform any sujūd sahw. But if he left the place already, he is already standing, probably about to start reciting Surah Al-Fatiha, or he started already, he is not to go back, because a wajib yaskut ila badal. Once you leave the place, the obligation will fall. You are not to go back. Unlike the ruk'nu, where you must go back, or you invalidate that rak'ah in which it occur and replace it with another rak'ah. That is not the case of wajib. Once you leave its place, you are to continue with your prayer. Then you replace it with 2 sajda before the taslīm. So if this person now, he left the place already, he is already standing erect, before he remembered that he omitted the first tashahhud, he is to continue with his prayer. Then when he is done with his salah, about to make taslīm, he should make 2 sajda before he make taslīm. This is the first time we'll be mentioning making 2 sajda before taslīm, what we refer to as qabli. This is the first time we'll be mentioning it. And of course, in the whole of sujūd sahw, making 2 sajda before taslīm only occur twice. All other cases, the sajda with the 2 sujūd will have to come after the taslīm. Just in only 2 instances, we have to make it before the taslīm. And this is the first instance, omitting a wajib. You have to replace it before the taslīm. Now, what is our evidence for saying if the person have not left the place is to not to make 2 sajda, but is to just make that wajib he omitted initially. The evidence is the hadith of Mughira bin Shu'bah radiyallahu anhu. He said, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Idha shakka ahadukum," if one of you doubts, is praying, then he is now thinking, hey, there is a wajib I have omitted. He said, فَقَامَ فِي الرَّكَعَتَيْنِ. For example, now the Prophet said the person stood after 2 rak'ah. He did not sit for the tashahhud. He said, فَاسْتَتَمَّ رَاكِعًا. If the person is standing erect, he is completely standing, فَلْيَمْدْ. The person should just continue, not minding what he has omitted. So, وَلْيَسْجُدْ سَجْدَتَيْنِ. So the person should make 2 sujūd before the taslīm. فَإِنْ لَمْ يَسْتَتِمْ. If the person has not fully stand, he is not erect yet, probably his 2 hands are still on the floor, he almost left the position, but not yet. The Prophet ﷺ said, لِيَجْلِسْ. So he should sit. وَلَا سَهْوَ عَلَيْهِ. لَا سَجْدَ عَلَيْهِ. So it's not to make 2 sajda. That is the hadith of Mughira, and that is what the Prophet ﷺ has commanded. So what about this thing happened to the Prophet himself? Yes, it happened to him in the hadith of Abdullah ibn Buhaynah, the one we mentioned while explaining the narrations that have come regarding the sujūd sahw. The hadith of Abdullah ibn Buhaynah radiyallahu anhu, he said, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam salla bihim adh-dhuhra, he led them in salatul dhuhr, فَقَامَ فِي الرَّكَعَتَيْنِ الْأُولَيَيْنِ. He stood after observing 2 rakat, وَلَمْ يَجْلِسْ, and he did not sit. فَقَامَ النَّاسُ مَعَهُ. Then the people stood with him. حَتَّى إِذَا قَضَى الصَّلَاةَ, until the Prophet finished his prayer. وَانْتَظَرَ النَّاسُ تَسْلِيمًا. When the people were waiting for his taslīm, كَبَّرَ وَهُوَ جَالِسٌ. he make takbir while sitting, wasajada sajdatain, then he make 2 sujud, qabla and yusallima, before he make his taslīm, thumma sallam, then he make his taslīm. The hadith rawahu Bukhari wa Muslim wa ashabu sunan. Now, in the riwayah of Imam Muslim, he said, كبر وهو يكبر في كل سجدة وسجد سجدتين مكان ما نسي من الجلوس. He make takbir and make 2 sajda in the place of what he has omitted. In the place of the sitting and the first tashahhud, he omitted. So that is the case of someone that omitted wājib on salah. We have discussed someone that did that intentionally, that the salat is invalid. Someone that omitted Takbīratul Ihrām, we said the salat is still invalid. Someone that omitted a ruk'nu, we said the wājib, the obligation of a ruk'nu of salah, la yaskut sah'wan wala amdan wala jahlan. The obligation will never be lifted from the person, whether he did it ignorantly or forgetfully or intentionally. In either of the cases, the obligation is still there. He will have to go back, observe that ruk'nu, and we said he can do that in 2 ways. If he has not reached the place in the next rak'ah, then he is to go back, make that ruk'nu, then continue from there, then make 2 sajda after the salah. If he has reached the place in the following ruk'nu, then he is not to go back. He just invalidate the previous in the rak'ah in which the error has occurred and continue his salah. Although there are scholars that hold the opinion that immediately he reached the next rak'ah and he has started the recitation in the next rak'ah, then the rak'ah in which that error occurred is invalidated, is invalid. But the correct opinion, Allahu A'lam, is that he still have the chance to go back unless he has reached the place of that ruk'nu in the following rak'ah. That is for someone that omitted a ruk'nu. Now, if someone omitted a wājib, as we have just mentioned earlier, if he's still in the place of that wājib is to perform it, then no sujūd sah'w on him. If he has left the place, he is not to mind what he omitted, just that he is to do 2 sujūd before the taslīm, then the taslīm. And we mentioned the hadith that have to do with that. What about now, if what the person omitted is a sunnah from the sunah in salah? We said the sunah in salah are just so numerous. If you have removed the 14 arkan, then the 8 wajibat, the rest of the things you do in salah, they are sunnah. Now, if someone omitted one of it, the ulama says, even if he did that amdan, intentionally, or sahwan, forgetfully, or jahalan, ignorantly, the salat is very correct. The salat is valid. Just that the reward will not be like that of someone that make a salah. Then, is there sujūd sah'w on him? Some of the scholars said no, he is not to perform sujūd sah'w, but there are scholars that said it is to do sujūd sah'w because of the hadith of Thawban, Mawla Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Likulli sahwin sajda." For every forgetfulness, for every omission in salah is sujūd sah'w. So if we are to consider the generality of this hadith, someone that omitted a sunnah on salah should also make sujūd sah'w. So that is that about omission in salah. We have mentioned the hadith that have to do with that.